Hello Toronto, I'm here today with Michael Sacco, owner of ChocoSol. We are Midtown Toronto, and this is my first time here, Michael, but I'm super excited because I've been a big fan of your chocolate for many years now. If you want to just give us a little introduction as to how you started your business, that would be great, and then we can talk about some of the different methods you use and how you produce it, why it's different from, let's say, the conventional chocolates out there.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So, 17 years ago, I was developing a solar concentrator technology as part of my master's in environmental studies. And I quickly discovered that you can't really sell technological solutions, and chocolate became this very powerful symbolic vehicle to share the story of ecology and regenerating indigenous agroecological traditions. And very quickly I saw that I could make a dignified living by making and sharing delicious, healthy, food of the gods chocolate. And our standard is, there are 4 traditions of chocolate making that I've identified. The food of the gods tradition, it's 5,200 years old. The aesthetic of the gods tradition, it's 500 years old, and it's primarily European. They added milk, they added sugar, they added all kinds of different things. They added
Your
machinery.
mainstream chocolate that we're used to.
No, that would
That
be
would be even better than the mainstream.
Yes, the mainstream that we're used to is the 3rd tradition, which is the industrial candy of the masses.
Okay.
And that has a lot of negative additives to it, as well as the association with child labor and exploitation in Africa. And the 4th tradition is the new age one of chocolate as a superfood. But chocolate as a superfood is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand it's returning to chocolate its virtues as a food and as a medicine, but on the other hand it's saying only these elite companies with these certifications and these patents can give it to you. Whereas cacao as a food, medicine, and a currency grows on trees. Everyone should be able to afford a little bit of it, but it should be a treat and a luxury and a food, not a candy and not a gluttony.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the flavors, and the Healthy Butcher and Real Food Toronto do carry most of these, but I have a feeling after today's visit we're going to be adding a few more. My favorite is probably, definitely one of the vanilla sea salt, right? And the darkness tends to be a staple in our house. I just tried this upstairs for the first time, which I know will be brought in shortly. But why don't you just tell us, Michael, a little bit about them and explain them.
So the vanilla sea salt is our best seller, and it's a great baker's chocolate. It's a great one to get kids to enjoy dark chocolate. I like to do a thing with kids where I'll give them a cacao bean and get them to taste the cacao bean, and they're like, ugh, it's too bitter. And then you give them a piece of 65% vanilla sea salt, which is very dark, and it tastes
and they're loving it
after the cacao bean. So that's what I call the teachable moment of cacao. The next is, people really love the darkness because it's just 2 ingredients, cacao and organic cane sugar. This one's fun. It's the 5 chili bullet. It goes good on a cheese board, goes good as an additive in the final stage of making your pasta. This is our 2nd best seller, organic coconut butter, which is 15%, organic coconut sugar, which is 15%, and 70% cacao. So a nice healthy bar. Sinfully Raw Vanilla with the raw nibs on the back. 0.5% vanilla pod. Delicious. Coffee Crunch. Why do I love Coffee Crunch? It's Forest Garden coffee and Forest Garden cacao together in a fusion, and it's an expression of the way that indigenous peoples can appropriately appropriate things and make them native over 200 years. That's what the farmers we work with in Oaxaca did with their coffee. Started growing it 200 years ago. My favorite though, the 100% gratitude. Why do we call it 100% gratitude? It's bitter chocolate. Is it bitter though? Because when you actually let a piece of 100% chocolate melt in your mouth, not only is it good for your teeth, the cocoa butter filling in the cracks, the anti-carry properties of the cacao, the minerals, but it activates your taste buds. And any medicine, any tea, or anything that you combine it with then becomes more potent and more powerful.
Is this the one that you have for breakfast?
For breakfast,
okay.
with a cup of green tea. And what I love about it is, I like to say, when life is hard, when life could make you bitter, that's when you most need to practice gratitude. And just like that, this cacao, when you enjoy it, it makes everything better. Because everything that is your favorite thing, like a nice glass of wine, or a nice glass of tea, or a nice piece of fruit, or whatever it is,
right,
your taste buds come more alive. So I love the 100% gratitude, And a lot of cancer patients actually will enjoy this.
Amazing.
So, and this has been, for me, you know, a lot of fun because by not grinding the chocolate too much, the 100% gratitude has a lot of cacao still in the cacao. And that's something that people don't understand, is that when it's been ground for 7 days, 5 days, 3 days, you're losing those medicines.
So maybe you could tell us why the texture is slightly different than other chocolates, because the first time I tried it, it was definitely a very unique, almost let's say chalkier texture that I wasn't used to, which I've grown to love, but maybe just explain how that happens and why your chocolate tends to be that way.
So, a lot of chocolatiers just melt chocolate. So I don't think of myself as a chocolatier. I'm like a stonemason of chocolate making. And what I've discovered through my research is that stone ground chocolate, it masticates the cacao. It doesn't cut it. It doesn't oxidize it. It chews it, and it's smooth. You can make a very smooth chocolate with it, but more of the antioxidants, more of the volatiles will remain in the final product when it's been stone ground.
Which is why you're saying your chocolate is healthy.
That's part of it.
Okay.
Another reason is not grinding it for as long. So not just stone grinding, but not grinding the chocolate for days on end. I was just visiting a chocolate maker in Ottawa that's grinding their chocolate for 3 days. I noticed that the chocolate tasted cooked.
Okay.
I noticed a much different thing. So it can make the chocolate smoother, but it also loses some of the power of the cacao. But also another thing is we add no lecithin to the chocolate. There's no soy lecithin, there's no preservatives. So that's one of the reasons that lecithin will rob you of the luxurious feel of the cacao butter, which is the only vegetable fat known to humans that catastrophically disintegrates in your mouth. Whereas when you add lecithin to it, as many industrial chocolates do, you get a little bit more homogeneity, but at the cost of losing that luxurious mouthfeel. So we like to say that we make chocolate that is rooted in the tradition of chocolate as a food of the gods, but always trying to draw upon every technique and every practice that we can to make it something that simultaneously is that luxurious aesthetic of the gods. So, welcome to the technological lab of ChocoSol. Here you have our hybrid solar electric roaster, so you can shine pure sunlight through here, but when there's no sun, like we often suffer here in Canada, you can use electricity. This is part of our scientific research and development model. Once they're roasted, we make our cacao blends in the warehouse. We clean the cacao, we blend it, load it into the roaster, roast it at low heat for a longer time. It's like a slow roast. Sound familiar? Then, cooling section. This is our second little scientific technological development. So in chocolate artisanal scale making, it's all about flows. You don't want to do things too fast. You want it to work. The artisan is monitoring processes, listening to machines. So you load all the cacao beans in here, and like an hourglass, they get broken in this little breaker that we've designed and built with all the safety mechanisms, and trust me, that was a whole conundrum. And then fed to this winnower, which uses wind to separate the lighter shell from the heavier cacao nibs. And then every product has its own color-coded bucket and goes into a bucket here. And these labeled buckets are all part of our sanitary thing. This is the cocoa nibs that are already blended and ready now for production. So this is part of the joy of making chocolate, is being engaged with the artisanal processes necessary to make delicious, nutritious, food of the gods chocolate that doesn't cost $1 million to do. And this is part of our most important innovation as a learning community social enterprise, this area right here.
All right, so I'm actually on the chocolate making floor now with Crystal, and she's going to take us through the whole process from start to finish on how they actually make chocolate. So we're starting off with these pods.
Yes, which is cacao in its purest form, and it's the fruit. So once the fruit is ready to harvest, the seeds are extracted, and the seeds get fermented, and they get fermented anywhere between 7 and 14 days into stainless steel or wooden boxes. And then they get laid out and solar dried. and then they get put into cacao sacks, and then we receive
Shipped to
them
Toronto.
from our farmers.
All right.
And so from here, we're gonna be roasting them and putting them through a winnowing process, which takes the shell out, and then we're putting it through our primary stone grinder. This is a beautiful machine coming from Mexico. It is traditionally called a molino. And so once the cacao gets ground here, it'll come out here, and it's called cacao liquor. And so from here, we put the liquor into our secondary grinder, which is also called a melange. So this is where we're adding our cacao butter and our sugars.
Just so everybody knows, this smelling here is absolutely fabulous right now.
And so from here, we're going to be cooling it. We're going to be taking it over and putting it into our tempering machine over here. As you can see, this one is air, using the air to cool the chocolate. And this part of the process is really important. It's crystallizing it and making sure that we're getting a good solid structure to be able to put into our chocolate bar molds. And so from
And
there,
the whole process takes around a day?
yeah, anywhere between a day and 2 days for sure.
Amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So here's something beautiful about cacao. Cacao was once currency. And in the culture in which cacao was currency, the richest man or woman was actually not the one who accumulated the most, but the one who gave the most. And that's why whenever my friends come to visit me, I like to invoke the rule of the wealth of cacao and chocolate, and I like to give people a bunch of things that they might have never had before that they can take home.
I like this, people.
So you've never had the coffee crunch till today, so you're taking that. You're taking the Mocheri d'Amour, which is
Amazing.
fantastic. You're taking our award-winning Jaguar Swirl. You're taking one of our Jaguar Pures, one of our unfermented Don Ray single origin, one of our favorite producer Don Floor's cherry flavored cacao, even though there's no cherries in it, and one of our Don Tito, which is our award-winning. But last but not least, you're taking the maple cacao sea salt, which was the first bird sanctuary carbon credit cacao for a bird that shows us that it doesn't respect the national boundaries, and it is a bird that is local to Quebec and local to the Dominican Republic, and so the chocolate bar we make is an expression of that ecology. But last but not least, now you are taking one bag of our coffee, which is the lowest emission, lowest food mile coffee we believe in the whole of the country.
Okay.
One bag of our Caracolillo coffee, just so you can taste the difference, and one packet of our Oaxacan cinnamon chocolate so you can experiment with making Mayan mochas.
Amazing. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
That was fantastic.
Should come here every week.
Very happy for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.